folks. All right. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I'm Jay Turo, and I am here in Los Angeles. I am the host of our Growthink Innovation Series webinar, and I'm so excited to have some awesome panelists here with us who I'll introduce briefly, and then we will get right into this. Just say hi, Drew. I'm going to introduce you formally, but Drew D'Agostino from Nashville is here. Hi, Drew. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having
me. From Crystal Knows, we have Brandon Larson here in Los Angeles with Red Bull High Performance. Hi, Brandon.
Howdy, howdy.
We've got Matt Glickman, and here also in Los Angeles with Retention Science. Hello, Matt. How are you?
Hey, doing well. Hey, everyone.
And we've got Neej Jor from Boom Train in San Francisco. Neej, good morning.
Hi, Jay. Good morning to you, too.
All right. So we're going to get started here. We're going to get right after this. So going to go through how this works. We're going to go through the goals of today and then into our all-star panel with right away. And going to really make the floor be theirs so that they can share their amazing insights on various aspects of AI technology in the space. So basically we're going to have 45 minutes, and then we're going to go to Q&A. As you have questions as we go, please use the GoToWebinar toolbar. This is a participatory sport, so we're going to get right into it. I have Anna Vitale, my Growthink colleague and one of our senior engagement partners, on the line here. You want to say hi, Anna?
Hi, everybody. Good morning.
Good morning, Anna. And Anna is going to be manning the chat and the Q&A. So please, I want everybody to feel free to ask questions as we go. We'll either try to ask them over the course of the webinar, or we will unmute you at the end and let you answer it. So what I wouldn't mind doing here is I'm going to run a couple of polls. So the first poll here is want to understand the audience. So the question is, how would you best describe your interest in artificial intelligence? So here we go. We got 11% voting here. This is great. So we've got got some entrepreneurs. We have some investors, 40%. We got to beat the presidential vote. It's good. 54, and we get to 70. I normally stop here. So 57, 60, 63, 61, 64. Great. So we've got that's awesome. Got a lot of votes here, and let's kind of share this with the group here. So we have basically we have 12% are investors seeking opportunities. We have 52% are entrepreneurs seeking ideas, and then we've got 36% have a general interest in the topic, which is great. So let's kind of get a sense now of, this is actually, you only get one choice here, even though there are buckets here. So how would you describe your knowledge of the space? Consider yourself a well-informed expert in technology, informed but not an expert, but new. No one wants to put themselves out, actually we do have people that are putting themselves out as an expert, which is great. Okay, let's keep it going, 51% and 56%. We're doing great here, get up to 70, then we'll close this poll, share this with respondents. So we got 19% are well-informed, 31% are informed, but 50% are new. So guys, you kind of have we want to kind of talk to everyone here, so we'll kind of bounce it back and forth in terms of some of the topics that and certainly that's going to be a big one here. And final question is, I love this question, what do you think about a computer being smarter than a human? Never happened? The world needs more intelligence? Is this going to, an Orwellian future for which I want no part? All right. Okay. Great. That's fascinating. This is great. Guys, this is a real, we call this a techno-optimist crowd, because when you see these answers, this is you'll appreciate these answers, that 72% believe the world needs more intelligence. So they're all for it. So the rise of the machines crowd here. So keep that in mind. You got a friendly audience. One last thing, if everybody can just show us how to use the chat function, and maybe in the chat function, just kind of chat, kind of where you're from. So kind of, just kind of put in where you're from in the chat box there, so we can kind of see where everybody's just geographically calling in from. So if you can figure that out, there's a chat function in the GoToWebinar, and then we'll kind of share that with the group. So you can go right into the chat function and then just let us know where everybody's from. That would be great. Okay, kind of close this out. All right. So as mentioned here, we got folks here. I'm trying to see if folks know how to use. They do it. Maybe they did in the question and answer here. Anna, do they do that? Okay.
Yeah, it looks like in the question and answer.
Oh, great. This is awesome. All right, we got Ohio, India, Mystic, Connecticut, Chicago. Sarah Connor is on the line, guys, which is great. That's good to see. Sacramento, Porter Ranch, Spain, Cincinnati, North Carolina. This is great. We've got a great group. I really appreciate Mohammed dialing in from India. That's awesome. All right, so let's get right into this here. So today's goals, really are this is a topic. This is the third in our series. So we've done our first series was on virtual reality. Our second one was on smart wearables. I think this one here probably has the most, as you'll see from some of the demos that our panelists are going to do of their tech. It really has some very wide applications. So first, we're going to talk, about AI, hardware, software applications. Kind of ask for some winners, losers, and prognostications from the group. I think, as importantly, is this always this theme of lessons from mainstream business. So tool adoption. I know, Drew, we're going to get right into this about these themes of tool adoption and tool retention. So especially when it comes to things like virtual agents and chatbots, natural language processing, personalization of experience, process automation, which, just to be clear, sometimes we think about AI, you got Watson, IBM's Watson, and just the super smart computer, but a lot of it is the kind of stuff that Drew does is very focused on, as well, really candidly, that Drew and Matt and with retention science and Nij with Boomtrain, very focused on business process and making those processes more efficient. So really about how do we use these tools, how do we keep using these tools, this idea of labor savings. This is a big theme, is that, we talk about what type of labor, human labor, is going to be replaced by AI. It's a controversial topic. I guess culturally, from a business standpoint, it can lead to some really interesting savings and opportunities. And then finally, this IoT, Internet of Things, that empowers all of this, and some of the stuff that Brandon, what do you see some of the, Brandon with Red Bull High Performance, some of the things he's going to show you are really quite remarkable, with that tie into virtual reality, and are really, really cool. So without further ado, I'm going to start here with Drew from Crystal Knows. And Drew in Nashville, I guess you took that thing out of your eye, which is good, Drew. But Drew, maybe as opposed kind of the show not tell, maybe I can turn the screen over to you and have you show us the Crystal Knows tool and how this works, and kind of as a, I don't know, would you describe it as natural language processing? What would be your best description of it as I give you the control and kind of let you give the group an example of how your Crystal Knows works? Yeah,
sure. So Crystal is it's a personality platform. So the purpose of Crystal is to help you communicate more effectively with people. And we do that by using some concepts like machine learning and natural language processing to make predictions about someone's personality or how they're going to behave. So if you're looking at my screen now,
yep, we got it.
Here's the core of the product. It comes down to a personality profile. So when I just looked up Jay here on Crystal, and it's using the DISC profiles. So if you're familiar with DISC, it's a similar framework to some other behavioral assessments. And this one just happens to be very simple and easy to remember. What this is really just a result of Crystal's analysis of Jay's social media presence and any other information that we could find publicly that he's written. So in this case, Crystal it's more of, it's definitely much more specifically a machine learning tool. So it's using lots of lots of past data about personalities in specific individuals to make predictions about other people that write similarly. So try to scope what AI is in this sense. It's not, Crystal's not so much of a, a robot that has unlimited potential to understand people, but it basically accelerates the process of you getting to know somebody. And then just even more examples. Anna, who's also on the line, here's her profile, and this is what Crystal found might be different about her. And then I also looked up a few others on the panel.
Oh, this is great. This is great. All right, Brandon. We got to keep it moving for Brandon. He's going to get bored on us, so we got to keep it moving, Drew. So.
Yeah. How do I?
He gets bored too. Okay. This is great. This is great. So as you can, so basically the accuracy confidence is, so Nij has a social media profile. You're able to pull in automatically a lot of stuff on him versus, let's say, Anna, not quite as much. So the accuracy confidence goes up and down. Would that be a fair that number?
Yeah. So with any kind of result that comes from machine learning, you're going to have an accuracy confidence because it's not a black and white answer. It's a prediction with a probability that it's true or not. So our accuracy confidence that we report is really just built for you to know going into a meeting with a person, or if you're working with a person, how likely the profile is to be true to their actual disk type, their actual personality. That comes from a few different ways. One, if we just find a lot of information that we can analyze, it's a very high accuracy confidence because we're able to have lots of different writing samples to look over, and the more you have, the closer we get to that margin of error. If you have a low accuracy confidence, which we do, we view Crystal as more of a tool, not so much like we don't want it to be a magic 8-ball. So we want you to know when Crystal is not super confident of the result. And then you'll see, all right, we're only 55% confident of this, so it could give you, basically take the results with a grain of salt. And then with any kind of predictive solution like this, you're going to have that, you're going to want some measure of probability that it's true. So that's really important whenever you're making predictions.
Great. So I want to keep it moving here. So this is great. There's a lot here, Drew. This is a really amazing tool. Anna and I have used it in client management and business development situations. That's a nice segue to Nij from Boomtrain. So Nij, I know you have a discovery tool that has some similar aspects. Why don't you kind of show this and talk about Boomtrain and utilizing some of these tools for marketing purposes. Hopefully I can make you the presenter here. Yep,
sure.
Great. All right.
Great, thank you. Welcome, everyone. And again, my name is Nij Gore. I'm the SVP of the business operation at Boomtrain. And just at a very high level, what we do here at Boomtrain is we try to make predictive intelligence available to marketers in all the channels that they'd want to use. So, even on our website and many websites out there, you hear the word AI being thrown around a lot. Essentially what it comes down to, AI is a very big umbrella. Essentially the practice of AI in marketing is really enabling machine learning models of a variety of sorts, depending on the type of business you're working with, to try to drive as much engagement as possible, because engagement is the thing that leads to every downstream metric, whether you're trying to recirculate users as a publisher, whether you're trying to sell products as an e-commerce retailer. So it starts with engagement, and then it carries through. So what I'm showing you right now on the screen in front of you is a little tool we have called the Discover portal at Boomtrain. It's a little demo environment. So essentially, just to give you an idea of how this works, as a reader is participating with different articles, and this is a sample site I've brought up called Marketing Reads, you can see I can click on an article. What's happening in the background is that it's actually building an interest graph for me. Especially in the publishing environment, interest graphs become very important because oftentimes things aren't tagged with all the right keywords that they need. So you need to extract the important words from the content. You need to use collaborative filters to figure out which pieces of content are connected to other pieces of content. As I'm coming through and I'm browsing through, let me just go ahead and click on a couple different articles as I click through this website. You can see that it's building this user interest graph on the left, completely semantically based on my actual interactions, and it's learning about me. So obviously we're looking at a data point right now, which is a unique snapshot. But the idea here is that when you get to a certain level and you've generated an interest graph that's significant enough, you'd have the ability to actually build out recommendations. And you can see that,
wow.
You can deliver recommendations in the form of email. So here's what our machine learning algorithm, the model that's been built for marketing reads, predicts as the first recommendation I'd like to see, the second, the third, the fourth, all real time, and using something called real-time scoring, which is taking inputs as they come in and then rebuilding the models and recalculating what should actually be shown to the user. And along those same lines, you can also deliver those same kind of recommendations across other channels. So other popular channels that marketers use are push, on-site, obviously the recommended for you bars you see all over the web. As opposed to being ad network focused, we're focused on recirculation here, so keeping users within your ecosystem. We have a messenger application where we're starting to introduce recommendations and also some of the basic concepts of chatbots. The verdict is still out on how effective these will be and where these are in the life cycle of deployment, but there's still a lot of use cases for messaging and recommendations. And of course, the in-app experience and delivering recommendations to those types of experiences also becomes very, very important. So multiple channels, it has to operate like an ecosystem. It has to be built by essentially building an interest graph, just like you see Spotify or Netflix or Amazon do for their users, making that available to the general business community out there that's serving consumers.
That's great, Nish. That's just this idea, as opposed to getting relevant content, utilizing machine learning to put, similar to Crystal knows, relevant content that's of value to the recipient is kind of the message, so that they're more likely to act. That's awesome. Okay, I just want to keep it moving here. I want to show let me see here. I'm going to make myself the panelist again. Let's see if I can get this on speaker. So this is maybe a little bit choppy, guys, but this is a pretty cool video that I want to show from one of Retention Science's clients, which is really some of the really coolest ads. What was this company bought for, I think, for $1 billion? Let me see if I can put this up here, and hopefully everybody can see this.
$100shaveclub.com. For $1 a month, we send high-quality razors right to your door. It doesn't do any good to spend money acquiring a customer if you can't keep them around. And so we go out of our way to build our retention practices, and retention science has been extremely helpful in helping us think very granularly about how to do that. Personalization is a word that gets thrown out there a lot. In the finest sense of the word, personalization means really understanding who your customer is and creating an experience for them. And that's something that retention science does extremely well.
The results we've seen with retention science have definitely exceeded our expectations. We ran some shorter time intervals and had timing optimizations, and with those two alone, we saw 47% increase in conversion rate and a 30% increase in revenue. They've been very thorough and detailed every step of the way for us, from campaign setup to execution. And this has really helped our team because, we're very lean, especially with, our remarketing email campaigns with retention science. We need to heavily rely on them as a major partner for us. So I would recommend retention science to other marketers because I know I can rely on them to come through for us, and they just have endless dedication and hard work, and they're constantly improving.
I would not recommend retention science for anybody else because that would mean I'd have to share their services with other people.
All right, Matt. Well, other than paying these guys to do that video for you, what is it about? What did you do for these guys that made them so? Talk about Dollar Shave Club and what you did here to make them get out of this. Matt,
yeah.
Tell us about Dollar Shave Club and kind of what retention science did, what you guys did for them that made them such evangelists for your for what you got for your company and your services.
Absolutely. So similarly, to Nij and the guys at Boomtrain, we really started off as a machine learning and analytics company. When we were first created, back in 2013, honestly, AI wasn't a word that was necessarily floated around a lot. We really wanted to focus on the machine learning side of things and getting more specific how that relates to kind of the ecosystem of e-commerce. We thought something that would be very important for marketers would be this idea of churn. Essentially, churn just means when you go from having, let's say, a somewhat frequent user or basically a happy customer, and then after a certain amount of time, they kind of fall off the cliff, if you will, and they no longer log on and continue to buy services from your company. So what we found was if we could use machine learning to kind of build these very accurate churn profiles, basically we'd be able to figure out with pretty high accuracy when one of your current users would be likely to churn or essentially stop using your business. So what we did for Dollar Shave Club was really help them utilize data points that they were already receiving, so in the form of exit surveys. So when someone decided, hey, I've been using Dollar Shave Club for however long, but you know what, I'm going to stop using them now. Dollar Shave Club would actually have you fill out a quick little exit survey in which you would kind of give a couple of reasons why you're no longer using it. Maybe you decided, hey, I'm going to go the mustache beard look and I just don't want to shave anymore. Maybe you decided, hey, this is just a little bit too expensive, I'm not interested, whatever it may be. But the point being, Dollar Shave Club wasn't necessarily utilizing this data in a way that could really move the needle for them. So what we did was kind of tie in this survey data with the rest of kind of our platform data, looking at transactional, behavioral, demographic, and customer data. Similar to the preview Nige or demo Nige just showed, we'll essentially install JavaScript on all of our clients' websites. So now anytime any customer is kind of on the site, we're tracking around 250 data points for each unique customer. So what they're clicking on, how long they're spending on each page, etc. So we kind of married that data with this customer survey data of why these customers were kind of churning from Dollar Shave Club, and we were able to create very tailored one-to-one campaigns that were able to really win these customers back, kind of get at their emotions, similar to Drew and kind of Crystal knows. We didn't necessarily have their full personality profile, but we had enough information to kind of populate a very specific, whether it be email, on-site, pop-up, mobile notification, whatever it may be, kind of using their own data to figure out, hey, what should the email cadence look like? Should we be emailing this person, once every other day? Should we be emailing this person once a week? Hey, what time should we actually email this person? Maybe they're much more likely to actually open an email in the morning versus maybe someone else is more likely to open it at night. We'll kind of figure out all of those characteristics for each individual customer and then kind of match or marry the messaging to that. Yeah, so in the Dollar Shave Club case, I think we're able to reduce customer churn by 50 or 60% for those guys, which obviously helped really build the business.
So that's great. That's a phenomenal segue to Brandon from Red Bull High Performance. This idea of, as opposed to looking at aggregate data, so there's always this talk about send emails on Tuesday morning. That's the best time to send an email. That what Retention Science and Nige and Crystal knows is this idea of utilizing these machine learning, these tools for personalization. And now with Red Bull, a lot of folks may not know this, Brandon. We always think about it just as the 2 a.m. picker-upper in Vegas. But really, there's a whole high-performance component to the business that you're very involved with. And this is a simulator, which is a different form of machine learning. Maybe you can share what this really cool picture is about and kind of what you do as the engineer in residence for Red Bull High Performance and how this works.
Yeah, thanks for having me. My name is Brandon. At Red Bull, in the background, we have this group called Red Bull High Performance. What we do is we work with all of the sponsored athletes and talent in the Red Bull ecosystem and family to help them chase their dreams, get better at what they do. And we're seeing that technology is providing a really great opportunity for that these days. As Nige has mentioned, that AI is kind of this umbrella for all the core technologies beneath that, which allow us to do things that humans would normally have to spend lots of time on. So that's really kind of what AI is taking over some of those responsibilities, and it's getting better all the time, but they're also finding new limits all the time. So that includes artificial intelligence, categories, deep learning, machine learning, NLP platforms. I believe there's a lot of predictive APIs that people have been working on, and it also goes into speech recognition and image recognition. And so as a technologist at Red Bull, we're continually surveying the landscape to kind of understand how it applies to not only making a human better or understanding more about a human, which may allow you to learn or understand something to design equipment better, but it can also be applied to things in the business as well. what the photo is here is this is a simulator that we have in our Red Bull High Performance Training Center, and we were kind of unpacking it. So that's the boxes, and we're always worried if somebody will accidentally jump off that trampoline and Chris Farley the thing. But the idea here is that, you know, can we, and some of the things we're looking into is, can we use some aspects of AI to start learning about the driving performance, the reaction speeds, even the personality of a person using the simulator, such that you could take maybe an upcoming rookie F1 driver and allow them to learn faster. Wow. So maybe they can learn in 8 years what the last professional learned in 10, which allows them to have 2 years to become more creative and progress the sport to a higher level.
Wow. Wow.
This is kind of a high overview real quick.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I think that, you know, that's coming back. So now this is the promise of a lot of these tools. Now, Drew, you're running a business. This is a tool. Anna and I have used this tool. It's powerful. There's this issue that to keep on using these tools. So same thing, Matt, Nij, that you give the customer the wow experience, but now they got to do some things. So folks have to be ready for these tools. So how do you think about that issue, Drew, and getting folks to keep using these tools as opposed to kind of regressing to business as usual?
Well, I think it ultimately boils down to pretty basic core concept of business in general, that you need to be solving a problem for somebody. Otherwise, they're not going to use the tool. Crystal first emerged just out of a curiosity, through a research project about detecting personality and behavior from writing. So in that sense, it started from technology. So there's been a lot of different applications that people have used Crystal for, and some of them are short-term, and we're fine with that. Lots of people like using Crystal for a little while, and it's mostly in the initial experience of getting their own profile as an alternative to a personality assessment, or people they know, which is great for consumers. It's not an ongoing business use case. So we've had to really dig into where Crystal is solving those problems. And right now, the place where it gets the most recurring usage, where it's really solving a problem, is when people have ongoing meetings with new people that they don't know, and then also in large enterprises where internal communication between people in an organization of thousands is very difficult, and usually is one of the biggest headaches that managers have. So giving them a tool like Crystal, where they can profile, or have profiles for employees and different team members shuffling around and managing up and managing down, it gives them a tool that they've never had before, because they've always had to get some sort of participation from personality assessments. So
great. So that's a good jumping off question for Nij. So we kind of have this ongoing theme here about utilizing these tools for personalization, but what's the limits? I mean, at what point does you get diminishing returns on this? That even though I get an email, I like my emails on Tuesday, and I like getting them as videos, I'm still not. It's not moving me to buy anymore. So what is the limits of the tools, and how do you overcome those limits?
So I think there are limits to the tools, but I think we're so far away from those limits that those questions haven't really posed themselves yet to most buyers. From our capacity and our lens, we're in the marketing space, and marketers want to answer 5 questions. They want to know, who should I send to? When should I send it? What should I send to them? What channel should I use? And why am I making these decisions? A lot of this relies on really understanding identity. So obviously right now there's many mechanisms for understanding identity across an audience, but those mechanisms are going to become better. And so as identity management becomes better, it becomes more robust. The understanding of the actual consumer is going to become better, and then you'll see optimizations continue in at least in the marketing space and other spaces as well. So I think we're pretty far away from actually arriving at any kind of plateaued limit in terms of what we are capable of doing right now. We're really just at the precipice of this entire movement. People talked about machine learning a couple years back as this new kind of computing paradigm that's emerging. I think we're finally at a place where we're seeing applications of it in reality that are consumer tested. So there's a long way to go before we get to any kind of plateaus that we need to kind of bust through.
Great. I want to just come back to Brandon because you made this case about the Formula One driver. I have 10 and 9-year-old sons that are very passionate golfers. So teaching them golf is a very complex, kind of mysterious way of how to do it. And so this goal of being able to, and I've coached Little League baseball. So teaching kids how to learn faster is a tremendous market, very personal to me. But how much is it really working? How much are we seeing it in reality? We're seeing right now better performance with these tools versus the promise of better performance.
Well, that's one thing that Neej mentioned is that it's kind of early days on some of these technologies. So one of the aspects of, let's say, a team that's had game data for 10s of 20 of years, we're starting to get to the point where you can start using some of the algorithms for image detection and video recognition to start feeding old game footage in to then start learning more about your plays, what works, what doesn't work, what wins, what doesn't. And so from that, you can then start developing coaches that have greater insights who can then be the human interface to the individual that they're coaching. And I see it more as we're becoming centaurs, us and computers. So that's where the coach will be that interface that then can learn very quickly and go through lots of data and not miss things to then be the human that applies that to that golfer, that baseball player.
So do you still need the coaches to get fluent in the tools, and it's a kind of a next gen of the training kind of folks that they need to understand how to utilize these tools for the players.
And I'll always fall in that category of I don't know how. So I think what AI does is it allows the value of an answer to be worth less, but it increases the value of a question. And so the human being is going to need to be there to ask the question to drive the answers that are given. So you need that human interface between two individuals, especially in sport performance, where you are touching another human's life. And in that case, you do need to be that liaison.
Great. I want to come back to Matt because you have a Dollar Shave Club, and they're obviously extremely sophisticated, arguably some of the most sophisticated online marketers in the world. So they're able to really utilize the power of a tool. We have a client that is a landscaper in Indiana. Okay, so they have an email list. They've been in business for many years, but they're not sophisticated marketers. They send out an email every month to their list, but it's beyond that they're gonna struggle with some of these tools. Can tools like Boomtrain, like Retention Science, can they help businesses that don't have perhaps the marketing sophistication of a Dollar Shave Club?
Yeah, absolutely, Jay. Thanks for asking that. I think that's a really good question. Something that honestly, when I first started at Retention Science and started to really immerse myself in AI and machine learning, I was honestly very surprised when I kind of hopped on my first demo of Retention Science, and honestly similar tools. I'm sure Boomtrain is the same way. The platform is designed purposely to be super easy to use. You by no means have to be, an AI expert, a data scientist, a data engineer to figure out how to hop in here and start to really utilize the platform and see that bump in ROI for your business. The bigger problem for us, and maybe Neej can speak to this a little bit as well, is really that initial adoption. Obviously, a company like Dollar Shave Club from the get-go, right, they kind of knew they were a really savvy marketing team, and they were all about kind of finding the next great technology to assist them. Versus, a smaller marketing, or not even smaller, but just a not as progressive marketing team, let's say, that's using, maybe some tools that are not AI-based, maybe just some very basic email tools, your constant contacts of the world, things like that. For them, it's a lot harder to really convince them, hey, why do I need to even be using AI? I'm kind of doing something now, and, maybe it's not working amazingly, but it's working a little bit. Why do I really want to switch over everything and kind of trust in this AI? So for us, it's really that conversation. Once we're able to really convey the value prop and demonstrate to the client, hey, yes, what you're doing now might work, but it might be taking you on average, let's say, 30 hours a month to kind of set up all the campaigns you currently have going out. What if you have all those campaigns, in 1 hour a month and see the same kind of return in terms of open rates, click rates, stuff like that, or if they would be even higher, would that be something you'd be interested in? And it's really around that point when the kind of I'll say, less progressive marketer really kind of has that aha moment, and they're like, oh, you know, so I don't have to sit and set up all these drag and drop rules and kind of go into the nitty gritty of these different campaigns, but rather I can get back to focusing on higher level strategy and branding and really the zeitgeist of my brand, if you will. That's something that they really understand. So I think, you know, getting these marketers to kind of initially adopt is the big challenge, but once they do adopt, it's honestly very easy to kind of hop into our platform, and I'm sure, and Boomtrain, it's just the automation is there. Really, when we say AI, I almost like to think as the A as automation, because really the tool we've built, it's made to kind of make that marketer's life easier and kind of take some of the decision making off of their belt. You know, you don't have to worry about exactly what segment you should be going after right now, because we've already predicted which is going to be your most likely to buy segment. So just stuff like that. Yeah.
I just want to make a quick time check, everybody. So I really like, very important because our panelist time is very valuable, and I really want to be respectful of our audience as well. So in about 8 minutes, we're going to open it up to questions. Some phenomenal questions have come in, so I want to give the opportunity for the group to get unmuted and ask the team some questions. Why don't we? One of the questions that came in, and maybe a good jumping off for you, Nij, is about basically the chat functionality. So tools like, you know, utilizing this, you know, whether it be virtual agents, chatbots, and the effectiveness of those tools. That seems like a classic example. There was a lot of enthusiasm around those kinds of tools. It seems to have dropped off. How can AI help an interface like that as folks are coming to websites to get that interaction? So specific question from an audience around the chat functionality. Sorry to put you on the spot, but how some of these AI tools can potentially help there.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. And I know that there's been a ton of buzz about chatbots, and there was even a professor out east who managed all of his office hours via chatbot, and you know, he made a case study about it. You know, the truth here is that chatbot capabilities are coming, but again, it's early. And so right now, what you're really finding is that there needs to be a man-machine kind of paradigm that comes together. There are certain functions that chatbots are going to be very good at. You know, they can be programmatic, they can be prescriptive, they can even start to learn. But at some point in the conversation, you're probably going to have a human involved to actually, you know, make that conversion happen, whatever that conversion means for your business, at least in the current model. You know, tools like Siri that are out there, you know, obviously the capability to understand questions and respond to them are quite amazing, but they still need more improvement. So I think, you know, when Facebook released their chatbot APIs and some of the early companies that went live on those and tested with them, I think they had mixed results. You know, they're not doing everything that they were promised to do yet, but that doesn't mean that that's not coming in the future. So, you know, the woman is still very important in the chatbot experience right now. But you'll see over time that as they learn more, they become less prescriptive and a little bit more learning oriented, that you know, the quality will improve and business will start using them in different ways.
Great. I'm going to put Brandon on the spot here because, you know, he's a singularity kind of guy here. So we're gonna put him on the spot. So Nij put something that made me think about this, some of the cultural artifacts. So what you see is a lot of outsourcing of traditional administrative roles from here in, say, developed countries to lower wage countries. Philippines is obviously big in this right now. Culture and how that impacts some of these tools. So, you know, how fast are we going to get to the place where these chatbots, the experience is going to be better without the person? When the cultural aspects of, you know, growing up in Chicago, it doesn't matter that you're now going to get a better experience through some of these AI tools and these automated tools than you'll get from a human. How far away are we from that?
That's an interesting one. But kind of what Nij mentioned and you were getting at as well is that a chatbot needs something to chat about. And so a lot of times what it's programmed in is very low level or high level, depending on which way you want to look at it, programmatic constraints. And so you do need things like, let's say, crystal knows, so to get in to understand the personality and then to understand the culture and then to translate words across languages very quickly. And then from there you can start understanding how we can get to those places where AI can cross barriers culturally and across language as well. So I mean, from what I've seen and looked into, various forms of it are there, but just with Siri not understanding Scottish people very well, that even already shows you a limitation. But I'd give it between 5 and 6 years, and we'll see some pretty good advances.
Drew, let me ask you that question. Like, with your product, how do you get to the next level? How do you kind of get it from some of that disc, that Gallup strength, that next level of human understanding? Where do you take your product from here to get it to the confidence factor of the results being higher?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we started with disc because it's a pretty simple framework, but what we really built is a machine learning engine to take unstructured text and use that to predict any kind of human behavior, at least behavior that we've got existing data on. So that's really the next step with it. It's taking the same engine and then applying it into other areas of behavior that it's not necessarily facts, it's just predictions based on the past, and then applying that to different business functions in the different areas where humans interact.
Great. I'm actually there's so many questions here. I'm gonna jump in and see if I can unmute some folks. So, Jim, I'm gonna unmute you here. You got some great questions here about this. Maybe I'm not sure who can answer this question, Jim. But Jim, are you there? Jim Hartley, are you there on the line?
Yeah, yes, I am.
Hi, Jim. How are you?
I'm doing well. Yeah, and this may be off topic, but when we think of AI, sometimes we think of ex machina, things like that. And so when are we moving to things like gel-based circuitry instead of in the place of silicon, or maybe quantum computing? Are they decades off, or are they around the corner for the things that you folks are aware of?
I could jump in. So quantum computing is actually taking off in quite a few areas. There's an Australian company that's doing a lot with Google with various armed forces here in the U.S. And so it is early days. They're still understanding how this can work. In terms of the other question you asked, there's a great alliance called the Flex Tech Alliance, and they are the group that's kind of the association that's studying a lot of this. They're working a lot with, again, more research bodies around the U.S. and armed forces and military services as well. But we're still in the early days of just flexible electronics. So to get to these gel-based ones, that's probably going to be another 10, 15, 20 years.
Great. Let me see if I can. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Brian. I have a question here from see if I can unmute Thomas, which is an interesting question. Thomas, about kind of machine learning, continuous. Thomas, can't pronounce your last name, but Thomas, are you there? Are you on the line?
Good. Don't worry, I won't even start with the surname. Everybody butchers it.
Yes.
Yeah.
How are you? Well, listen, thanks for joining us. It's an interesting question. Maybe you can just elaborate on it a bit for the group, and then we can kind of throw it out.
I was wondering, guys keep on using, the term machine learning, but from what I see, I would more class it as, continuous AI learning, because it's not actually stopped. It's not put into, a database like something that Xbox is used for their recognition stuff. It's more a continuously learning thing, experience, rather than a closed system that that's dropped out there and that's it. We're not changing anything. I'm just looking to kind of clarify. Maybe I'm understanding it wrong.
Yeah, maybe Nij or Drew, or you guys can take that question about what exactly is what is that.
Most of the stuff you have seems to be more continuous AI learning or VI learning. That's another thing I'm really picky on when people say artificial intelligence, where for me, artificial intelligence would be general artificial intelligence, and what we're playing with right now, even in terms of sentiment understanding, is it's still virtual intelligence. But then again, it's something kind of along the lines of machine learning versus continuous learning.
Yeah, Nij, you want to jump in on that?
Sure. So yeah, I think that you're touching on a good point. So the models that we have here at Boomtrain, they're unsupervised learning models, and so you're right. There is a continuous learning framework that comes into play. But as I mentioned earlier, there's no one model that's like the silver bullet for everybody. So you start with X number of models, and you have to continuously test them against each other when you're actually deploying them for customers. And the machine learning aspect of this is really the interpretation of all of the data that you have coming in, putting it through your ML pipelines, and then basically making it actionable, at the end of the day. So distilling it down to something that can be used by your actual customer. But, you're right in the sense that there are several unsupervised learning models that are always being tested against each other and, continually being optimized to deliver that result for the end customer.
So guys, that ties into an issue around, so there's the business issue, then there's the human being issue. So the replacement of labor with these tools. So Drew, what is some of these things, the traditional salesperson, so do they start going away because, you're able to get a better profile automatically? Are those jobs in danger, like the jobs of drivers? And what kind of positions are under threat because of these tools?
Well, in our area, we're not really replacing a primary business function. We're more giving individuals like this extra skill. So I guess Crystal specifically, there's not a real direct comparison to say, all right, because Crystal exists, this job function is going to go away. Mm-hmm. I think in the sales area, there's lots of tools that are trying to do away with like the SDR or BDR functions of early business development. Replacing the first interactions that customers have with the company with chatbots. And in my view, that's going in the wrong direction. We're trying to. Our whole philosophy is based on the fact that there's a ton of noise and a lot of people talking to robots already, and people just want more genuine human connection. So that's really the direction that's our whole philosophy as a company. It's that empathy is going to win more and more. But certainly in the industry that I'm currently in, that is the hope and the vision that's being pushed a lot by these tools.
Brandon, you're smiling there.
To that. Yeah, I'll add something to that. It's a good point. There's one area, like you said, drivers. So autonomous electric vehicles, they start replacing your taxi drivers. But there's ancillary markets that those change as well, because if you're not needing to fill your car with gas, you're not going to be going to convenience stores. If you're not going to convenience stores, there doesn't need to be this bulk place where all these products are stored. So, people like Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Snickers, they're all trying to figure out, okay, what happens when AI and advancements in other technologies, in addition to AI, start replacing or start compromising our revenue streams, which compromises workforce, which then downsizing workforces. So, but on the other side, kind of what Drew was saying is that a lot of times you need that human interaction. And what we've seen is that, let's say your sports psychologist can't be there all the time. They have 15 different other clients. So you can have AI tools which allow you to then service your client base without you having to be there. So it allows workforce to actually scale without replacing a workforce, because people are always going to have needs in those areas, and there's not always time by the one person that's not scalable in those areas.
So Nij, Matt, I imagine you guys, though, you're kind of the traditional marketing, the marketing firm, branding firm. They're gonna. This stuff is a threat to them, right? They need to adopt these tools. The kind of the more qualitative marketing, that you have to stay in tune with these tools. Would that be a fair, Matt? You want to comment on that?
Yeah, for sure. I think that would definitely be a fair statement. A lot of the kind of prospects and companies that we're talking to, a lot of times when we start the conversation, we'll find out, hey, they're already working with, a separate marketing agency that's handling all of their creative, all of their maybe email, their mobile campaigns, whatever it might be. And what we kind of figure out is that, hey, a lot of times these companies are paying these other agencies, pretty high monthly fees, right, to kind of manage this entire process. And we can actually move that process back internally to the company without them having to necessarily hire more headcount. They don't necessarily need to hire more marketers, more email marketers, because all of that functionality is kind of just baked into the platform. I think, it's definitely really interesting. So many marketers in general, they want to be from a high level, they say, you know, they want to get into AI, they want to get into these newer tools, but when push comes to shove and you have to change their workflow a little bit, you know, and I think this is niche, probably experiences this as well. A lot of times they don't want to make those actual changes. You know, they kind of want the good, cool new stuff, but they don't want to change what they're currently doing. So that's a big challenge that we often see. But the good news is, you know, once they actually do adopt the technology, a lot of times they are able to see, kind of have that aha moment, kind of like, you know, when someone opens up Crystal for the first time and they're like, oh, wow, you know, kind of instantly get it. We definitely have that sentiment as well.
Great, great. Got a question here. I can't unmute her because I think I don't have her audio pin was dialed in, but it's a question. It's probably Brandon that may be most appropriate for you from Alina that asks about using these tools to increase my personal productivity. Any advice?
I mean, this might be a good one for Drew, but in terms of personal productivity, there's quite a few tools out there which just allow you to, in essence, so I saw a demo recently where somebody was able to just, in essence, talk into a microphone and build a website from that. So, you know, instead of having to go find the person to build the website and go through all that process, you can just have like a Siri type conversation back and forth to your computer and build your website. So, you know, if that's one thing that is getting in the way of your productivity, that helps. But one of the other panelists probably has a better take.
Well, it's a little bit jumping out question. Maybe, Drew, it's this idea that, you know, a lot of these tools, there's an assumption of kind of always on the grid, okay, that it's so digital that, but, you know, there's a little bit of that backlash. You know, we're still analog beings here, and that just turning off all the technology, how does that relate to some of these tools so that we're not just constantly engaging with them in a way that could potentially be detrimental?
Yeah, I think you're alluding towards a problem that we're trying to solve. I think one of the reasons that people are really interested in Crystal when it starts is because it reminds them that we're all unique, and as we transition more and more of our communications to this asynchronous text, like whether it's in Slack or email or text message, we lose a lot of the just natural humanity that happens when we communicate with each other face to face. So I think that is creating a problem, especially at large organizations where people are supposed to know each other and work well together, but they just don't have the underlying relationship or trust. So I mean, in our case, we're using you know these different types of technology to try to make it a decision that a human could make intuitively, but inserting that into a problem where a human doesn't have that ability anyway. You know, in a case where you've just never worked with someone, how do we give you the ability to kind of turn the technology, flip it on its head and say, because we have this data, because we have the ability to analyze it, how can we actually make your real life relationship better?
Love it.
That's
Nij, I mean, you're there. You're at a hotshot Silicon Valley company. The culture there. Do you guys just have little chips in your head, or do you actually talk to each other there over at Boomtrain in San Francisco? What's kind of the talk there about the analog and how that plays into marketing and company culture?
I mean, I think that what the panelists have been describing is exactly right. Like, for us, empathy is actually really important. You know, you need to build in human checkpoints into any ML systems that you're deploying. I mean, look, at the end of the day, the consumer doesn't care if you use something programmatic or you use AI or you use one machine learning model or another to deliver them experience. The internet's noisy. What they want is a magical experience. And so, you know, the first time I used Crystal, I literally thought it was magic. You know, it was cool. And that kind of experience, when you were able to deliver that to somebody, you know, the end product, the way they feel about it, it comes from actually having to blend together all these different things we've been talking about. You know, it's not just coming from the machines and the machine learning. It has to bring in a human element. And, you know, together, if you're delivering that at one-to-one, you know, at scale, then you've really created something interesting.
Love it. Love it. I'm going to put all you guys on the spot, and I think I'm going to let Brandon go first as the Red Bull high performance. And it's you know, he's here in LA. It's 10 in the morning, but he's already had 3 or 4 Red Bulls, so he's the most awake of all of us. So we're going to go around the room. Everybody else is going to get a chance to think about it while he answers. So the prognostication, Brandon, what's going to be the hot thing we're going to be talking about in a year from today? What's the hot thing that's going to be the rage in AI and the machine learning and performance enhancement?
Yeah, I think it's such a wild west right now that I'm almost waiting to see. I mean, I think the thing I'm most excited about is the self-driving vehicles and self-driving robots and stuff. You know, I have a Roomba, and the fact that thing navigates around daily and finds its way back to its home blows my mind. I think that's magic. And so the rise of the robots for me is the cool one.
Love it, love it. All right, let's see. Drew, we'll let Drew have the last word. Nij, what do you think? What's the next thing? What's the prognostication for 2017?
So I think that actually, you know, I mentioned this earlier, and you know, for many of our businesses, we're really finally enabled to do something with the data that we've been collecting, and so I think there's going to be advances in every single area, to be honest, that are going to be pretty interesting. I think, you know, for me personally, I love like wearables, and I think that there's going to be a lot of interesting things that happens with wearables. You know, not really connected to Boomtrain per se, but you know, the idea of having this magical experience, whether you're in, you know, in the real world and you're interacting with friends, and it's an enhancer, or you're in the digital world, you're receiving marketing, the enhancements are all going to come. And I think, you know, across all of our different verticals that we're in, between Matt, Brandon, Drew, myself, there are going to be, you know, massive enhancements that come in the next 12, 24 months. So excited to see all of them.
That's great. So we got rise of the robots, utilization of big data, wearables. Matt, what do you got? What's going to be the hot thing in 2017?
Okay, so we didn't really talk about it too much on the panel, and definitely not directly related to what we do at Retention Science, but I think the Internet of Things is really starting to kind of traction beneath it. I wouldn't be surprised if we really just start to see, and we're already starting to see these kind of connected homes and smart devices. I wouldn't be surprised if that starts to get really, really mainstream, and you start to see, you know, big box retailers like, I don't know, Bed Bath & Beyond, Target kind of start selling these things, you know, to the public, to the masses. I really think just the whole interconnectivity of all of these devices is just going to explode.
So we got IoT. All right, so Drew, that's great. So Drew, we got rise of the robots, we got big data, we got the connected home and IoT. Drew, you get the last word here.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with my company. But I just think once the price of entry and the computing, or just the ability to actually run it, is like affordable and accessible, multiplayer virtual reality is going to take off. And I'm looking forward to it personally, and yeah, it's just going to be. I think that's going to be the big thing. I don't know if it's going to happen next year, but I'm personally looking forward to it.
Oh yeah, no, and that's such a, you know, we did a panel on virtual reality, and it so relates to all these themes here. So, guys, this is really great. I mean, really exciting. I just want a closing comment that there are a lot of the folks here on the call that they're not, you know, one of the reasons that that I put on these webinars is to expose folks to thought leaders, to folks like yourselves that are in these really dynamic markets. So you're out there dreaming a lot, which for better or for worse, the majority of the economy doesn't feel that way as often as folks that are in virtual reality or wearables or working in the Bay Area. So what I just challenge everybody to do is this sense of possibility, that to dip your toe in these tools. I'd certainly encourage everybody on the call, not, you know, to do what Nij said. When you use Crystal Knows, it's like magic. It's really when we've done it here, it's remarkable. And how, you know, when I saw myself up there, and I've seen my profile before, it's like, wow, it feels spot on, and I'm sure that my coworkers would say the same, which is great. So it's a really powerful tool. And then the second thing is just that a lot of this stuff, like, it's not, even though it's really advanced, it's still, you know, as you know, Matt, and these are tools that can help any business right away improve results. So key marketing to sale conversion is huge. So that's something that just challenge everybody that aren't in AI or have these, really high-powered software components to their business to utilize these tools to help their businesses do better. And then obviously, Brandon, with Red Bull and performance, that's a huge issue. Day to day, how do we improve performance? Is in our personal lives, our professional lives is a giant issue. So a lot of great stuff here. I hope that, guys, that we can actually. I'm going to ask all of you a year from today. We're going to come back and we're going to see. I wrote down your prognostications, and we're going to see where we're all at in a year. So I want to be respectful of the time of everybody. It's 10 o'clock here in LA. So guys, that was really cool. Really enjoyed it. Thanks everybody. Thanks our attendees here for taking the time out. And all right, good stuff, guys. Everybody have a great Friday, great weekend. Thanks everybody. Bye bye.
Thank you.